We have a shocking Toronto Raptors trade update to discuss, as the Raptors right now are among the favorites to land DeMar DeRozan via trade this offseason. We know Masai Ujiri isn't afraid to make big swings, and reports have been escalating regarding RJ Barrett's availability in the offseason and the Kings being directly interested in acquiring RJ Barrett. And frankly, I have been outspoken. I have been frustrated. I have been telling anyone I can to not deal away RJ Barrett unless it's for an absolute superstar. And even though DeMar DeRozan is one of my favorite players of all time, one of the guys that I grew up with, Raptors fans saw him, take this team from an absolute dumpster fire into a perennial playoff team, I do not want to see RJ Barrett dealt away in one of these packages. As much as it would be cool to see DeMar DeRozan back in a Raptors uniform, as cool it would be to see him retire as a Toronto Raptor, all those things, especially when we're getting back to being competitive, risking it at the hands of RJ Barrett would be very, very bad, especially for the long term for this Raptors team. So we're going to break down these reports, why the Raptors are favored, and basically what we can expect from this Raptors team in the offseason. So where's all this coming from? Well, basically, news has come out a ton of times. So coming from Jake Fisher, the Sacramento Kings are expected to explore trade options for DeMar DeRozan. So that came from Jake Fisher. The rest of this report basically said that the focus in the California capital shifts now to what sort of dealing we could see from the Kings' new regime. There has been no shortage of rumbles since the hiring of Scott Perry as general manager that Sacramento is expected to gauge the market for veteran swingman DeMar DeRozan. So that's coming from Jake Fisher. Additionally, on top of this, reports say that the Kings have also had interest in Boston's Drew Holiday as well as RJ Barrett from the Toronto Raptors. So that's coming from Brett Siegel. We also had the buzz, the last video we put up out on the channel, from those rumors swirling from that Chris Davis report that the Raptors are quietly gauging interest in RJ Barrett's trade market value, and the Kings are one of the teams listed as a suitor. So there are a lot of reports coming out, a lot of reports, a lot of rumors, a lot of things happening right now regarding DeMar DeRozan and, DeMar DeRozan trade happening, and then RJ Barrett being linked in all of these trade packages, trade talks, and everything along those lines. And to build off this, which makes this more concerning, I've brought up this report a few times, but from Mike Scotto saying that Barrett was discussed in trade talks for Brandon Ingram with the New Orleans Pelicans, but the Pelicans preferred the expiring contract of Bruce Brown and stretch five center Kelly Olynyk, league sources have told Hoopside. With Trey Murphy and Herb Jones already on the wing, the Pelicans didn't view Barrett as a suitable fit for their roster, and talks would have necessitated them finding a third team. So the Raptors were already gauging trade value for RJ Barrett at the trade deadline. Later in this report, Scotto says that keep an eye out for RJ Barrett as a trade possibility in this offseason. So what's linking DeMar DeRozan and RJ Barrett directly? Well, this is where the new report, the new update comes in, as the Miami Heat are currently favorites to land DeMar DeRozan in sort of the odds for a trade this offseason, but the Toronto Raptors right there are tied for third best odds to land DeMar DeRozan in this offseason. And all the odds are pretty tight. Again, I'm not super familiar with the specific differences out there, the plus 45s. I don't know how the discrepancies are, but it is a close window in terms of the Heat, the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Raptors, as well as the Sixers on the tail, in terms of being the next fit for DeMar DeRozan, in terms of being the next destination for the Raptors' former star. So you look at this, it's getting real, it's legitimate, and there's a bunch of reports to back it up, and now the betting odds, who, regardless of what you think about the sports betting and all that, those types of things, generally they are on the money in terms of the likely destinations for where players are going to go. So what's going on with this? Why, Ben, are you so frustrated with the idea of bringing back one of your favorite players? A guy that his jersey is still hanging up behind me, if you can see that there. I got a DeMar DeRozan purple dino jersey. So why on earth are you frustrated about this move happening? Well, we can take a look at the stats. DeMar DeRozan's still a phenomenal basketball player. 22 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4.4 assists, shooting 33% from the three-point line and 38% on corner three. So he's improved that area of his game, but still one of the league's best mid-range shooters. He's one of the greatest players out there in the clutch currently in the NBA. And, he's just still a phenomenal basketball player despite being on the Sacramento Kings last year. But he is a guy that's going to be 36 years old going into next season. And frankly, does not fit this team nearly as well as a guy like RJ Barrett does, who, yes, averages 1 less point per game, but averages more rebounds, more assists, but is a better three-point shooter, and frankly, is just younger, fits the timeline on this team better, and was the Toronto Raptors' most consistent player over this past season, with still a ton of upside and a ton of potential out here on this group. And yes, you might look at it and be like, oh, well, the luxury tax, Ben, we got to get under the luxury tax. And the Toronto Raptors can be under the luxury tax while maintaining RJ Barrett. And this move doesn't help facilitate the luxury tax issues. Basically, DeMar DeRozan and RJ Barrett are on essentially the same contract. You could trade them 1-for-1 and make this deal go down, right? So it doesn't really make sense in terms of what's going on. Like, DeMar DeRozan's more expensive, or no, sorry, RJ Barrett's are like $3 million more expensive. I don't get it. I don't get this move straight up. RJ Barrett for DeMar DeRozan 1-for-1, the one that's been rumored, the one that's been thrown out there, tossed around in these trade discussions, because again, RJ Barrett's the better fit. And you look at this roster regarding particularly Brandon Ingram coming into the mix for this Raptors team. Masai Ujiri is investing a lot in Brandon Ingram, gave him the extension despite him being injured last season. And frankly, Brandon Ingram as well as DeMar DeRozan work on very similar areas of the court. They love their mid-range jump shots. They're not taking a high volume of three-pointers. They like to slash the rim, and they will work in very, very similar areas of the basketball court. Whereas RJ Barrett does take a higher volume of threes, is a little bit more of a slasher at this point. Even though DeMar definitely gets the rib, gets the free throw line and stuff, RJ Barrett's just a bit more explosive, being a decade younger than DeMar DeRozan and all of these types of things. And DeMar has improved as a passer. RJ Barrett and DeMar DeRozan do have some similar aspects of their game, but basically DeMar is an aged version of RJ. Yes, that means he's more savvy, he's more polished, and all of those types of things, but it does mean there is likely a cliff coming up in terms of his production out there, especially on the offensive, on the defensive end of the court, where RJ Barrett still isn't as athletic prime. He's still getting better each and every season, and frankly, just fits what the Raptors are doing a lot more. And the fit around Brandon Ingram now at this point just doesn't really make sense for DeMar DeRozan, not to mention the fact that Scottie Barnes has struggled as a three-point shooter in his most recent season. Jakob Poeltl, yes, he took some corner threes at the end of last year, but isn't much of a three-point shooter. Isn't a three-point shooter, isn't a factor. I'm hopeful. The back of my brain's like, hopefully we get a Brook Lopez development arc for Jakob Poeltl as a three-point specialist. We can't bank on that in terms of elite floor spacing for the Toronto Raptors next year. It's unrealistic. It's not something that we can really dive into. So Masai Ujiri making this move when it doesn't really do much for your cap situation, when you're just getting older for no reason on a team that is very young. We don't even know what we can expect from RJ Barrett here now at this point. This is just a mistake of a move, unless you're getting like 5 first-round picks from the Kings, what the Kings are not going to do. Maybe they will because of the Sacramento Kings, but I don't know. I'm not sold on this move. I don't think this is the right direction for the Toronto Raptors to go, as much as it will warm my heart to acquire DeMar DeRozan. Now, if we can get it done through other avenues, it still puts the Raptors in a very, very tight cap hold, and it'll be taking minutes away from, you keep RJ Barrett on this team, but minutes are taken from Jakob Poeltl, from Gradey Dick, other wings that are out here on this roster that need some run to develop. I don't think it's the right move, as much as I'd love to see DeMar DeRozan back on this team. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. You guys, the best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.